Okay, you guys. Hello, everyone, and welcome. I'm Jenith Blackert,
And I'm Bianca Reina.
and this is How Hustle Mystic Morning Show. Today, we're talking with Natasja Pelgrom, and we are talking about DMT, psychedelics, and really unity consciousness and finding your way through consciousness. Natasja, welcome.
Yes, I'm gonna just give a couple little quick things about Natasja before we get jump in, and then we'll ask her a question. Natasja is an awakening with she is an international respected visionary advisor and thought leader at the intersection of leadership and human flourishing and transformational entrepreneurship, with over 2 decades of entrepreneurial experience across wellness, psychedelic assisted care, hospitality, and creative industries. Natasja now serves as a mentor to emerging leaders, consultant to mission driven organization, and a guide to those who are navigating profound personal and professional transformation. She's also the founder of Awaken, the Medicine Within, and the host of the Awaken podcast, a platform for nuanced conversations exploring the spaces between science, spirituality, social transformation. Today, Natasja works globally as a keynote speaker, a trusted advisor, and community leader committed to catalyzing right relationship, regenerative leadership, and lasting behavioral change. Thank you for joining us, Natasja. Welcome.
Hi,
Thank you.
everybody.
Hi.
Yay. I wanted people to really understand that you work with a lot of leaders and how you have some of this background, because from my understanding, you have been doing this since when
Yeah,
Jenith has been so beautifully raving about. You have been doing this type of work actually since you were a little girl, and wanted to kind of jump into how you came into this work and how you share with people today.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me, and those of you that are live and those of you watching recordings. Getting each other's time and attention is precious. That's the commodity that we have that is of massive value. So I honor this
Yes.
moment and I honor the creation of what you're doing here. I
thank
know how
you.
much work goes into this. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Um, Yes, so let's start. I always have to feel into where are we starting today? But
I can
let's
I can ask a good solid question for you.
yeah, sure, go ahead.
Why don't you tell us about your introduction to psychedelics and why you use that to open up your consciousness today?
Yeah, great question. Well, actually, it's funny because this question, what I wanted to answer was going to be for the previous question too. So it's
Yes,
perfect.
yes,
Yeah.
yes. Good. That's what I
Uh,
thought.
because my first introduction to plant medicine and expanded states of consciousness was at the age of 14. So that's really when I started.
Mhm.
Just to, I always want to put in a little disclaimer here because maybe some people aren't knowledgeable about psychedelics, the legality, the history of it. So I grew up in Portugal and the Netherlands. I was born in the Netherlands to a Dutch mother, and it is legal to work here with specific types of psychedelic compounds. Today, as we are speaking in 2025, it is legal to work with a psilocybin in the form of a truffle, which is the root of the mushroom. And back in, because I'm now 46,
Oh, you
back
look
in,
great.
thank you, in 1993, 94, it was actually the full fruit, the full mushroom was legal. So you could go to called a smart shop and buy the substance and eat it. It is seen as food. We even pay 6% taxes on it in the Netherlands. So this is how legit it is, right? I always want to share that. Then second, of course, we have different traditions, different cultures, different ideas about what coming of age is, what how we are bringing our children, etc. And I've had the privilege to be in grown up into a family constellation that were artists and very open-minded, and my mom really looked at me as a person, and so she knew about it that I was going to do psychedelics, and I did it at home. So I always want to share that because I think that's the tone of me being able to go on this discovery and me being open enough and feeling supported and safe enough that when I didn't know what was happening or I had questions, I had actually elders and adults that could support me. right?
Mhm.
Also, because the education between what is addiction and what is recreational and the consequences between both um, was actually very common. You know, we had coffee shops with of course, weed, and that was all legal. It's been legal since the 70s. So that education part has been alive. I always want to put this as a disclaimer because I'm
Yes.
not here saying that people, a 14-year-old should take psychedelics.
Got it. I totally
Right?
receive
I know
that.
it's a lot
Thank
of
you for no,
words,
I
but
get yes,
yeah,
thank you.
yeah, it's important also for everybody's platform because we have so many ways that we express. But I am going to say that I believe that our Western society has lost completely the relationship, becoming of age, rites of passages, celebrating moments in life, but also going through different stages of how am I going to show up without ego and into service in my community, which in more traditional aspect and wisdom traditions, it is still upheld between certain rites of passages, certain coming of age, certain vision quests, certain rituals and ceremonies are in place, and we've lost a lot of them. We have barely any. We don't even, we go for, in the Netherlands, for example, if someone passes away, the funeral is in the morning, and in the afternoon, everybody's already behind in their computer in the office, right? In the south of Europe, in Italy and Spain and Portugal, it's still a 7-day process. There is a lot more
Oh,
care
interesting.
around family. So it's culturally very different, right? I believe that when I was at that age, what had happened is my curiosity did not kill the cat, but it fueled actually. So
Sure.
I wanna honor that 14-year-old that got some mushrooms and had this very interesting journey. And I have to say, it was absolutely recreational. It wasn't intentional. It wasn't ceremonial. It was all of that. But that catapulted me in going into certain questions about life.
Mhm.
Very cool.
Yeah, and that was very quickly within the months after I had multiple moments where through a friend of mine and her parents who were connected to the Hindu tradition and going to the ashrams and singing kirtans. And I had a full-blown awakening process a few weeks after the mushroom experience in a setting like that. So Hinduism was my first introduction in a form besides Christianity, because that's where my Portuguese family is connected to. So,
Interesting.
and one thing just catapulted after the other. And within that year, a lot of things had happened for me. Now, in that year at 14, 15, I didn't make the connection. I didn't. But it's much later that I started seeing, wow, aha. So
Mhm.
that's the start of the psychedelic journey. And that's also the start of always wanting to be a student, always wanting to be a student of life, going into new age, esoteric mythology. I started philosophy, Buddhism, shamanism from different traditions. So, and that kept on going. I just never stopped, not
Yeah.
because we had Instagram at the time and I wanted to be a spiritual entrepreneur. No, it was just I couldn't
You're,
get saturated with,
yes.
Yeah, no. It's
Well,
like we're seekers.
yeah, yeah. Judith and I
yeah,
can relate.
Yeah.
yeah. So that's the beginning. I'll pause there because
Yeah.
I don't know if there was another
I
part to it.
I
And I
feel like
already shared a lot.
there's just a waterfall that's going to come on you from me. So
Go ahead.
I know that you do journeys with this five, like I know people talk about DMT, and you do these journeys with a specific DMT from the way you explain it, I believe. And it's 5-MeO DMT. Can you talk a
Yes.
little bit about that? Why you're choosing that? And really, I want to hear some of the stories from
Or like
some
the
of your,
insights.
yeah, what your insights are. And then I want to ask you about the pineal gland and what you know about DMT and the pineal gland, but we'll get there.
I'm just going to raise my hand and say this. When you're
Yes.
speaking to me, know that I tried to do mushrooms one time and I freaked out and I threw it all up and I was probably about your age. And then other than that, I feel like, and I'm not saying me, I'm me, maybe representation of
Like
of
group.
the people that are in the audience, right? And when I think of doing any journey now, I literally want to climb under this desk and be like, I don't think that sounds too terrifying.
Hmm.
But I know
Maybe we
that
start there.
I know that there are truly cool, like amazing benefits. I know that there are insights, but I don't know if and I know that it's real. I just, I don't know if it's me. Like, I don't know if it's for me. I don't know if it's scary. I want to run, like all of the things.
And maybe just address the resistance of people even hearing about psychedelics.
Yeah. I almost want to be
I think those
convinced.
are 10 questions in one.
I know. Like I said, they might feel like a waterfall.
Sorry.
Okay, I'll go with whatever pops up first and we'll go from there.
Okay.
We'll be
I
divinely
think,
guided.
yeah. So first of all, just help me understand. Did you do a psilocybin or a psychedelic journey and you had questions, or you have interest in doing?
I
Is that,
have I have curiosity.
yeah,
There you go.
okay.
I
Okay.
almost want to be convinced because at some point,
Mm.
maybe I might want to. I'm just not sure if I need to or would
Yeah.
want to. Yeah.
That's a great starting point because first of all, anybody that tries to convince you of anything, please run away. Right? I think that's a red flag for me. I think if you feel called and you're curious, first starts with curiosity. Sometimes it starts with, a friend or a relative that shares a story, an interview, a documentary, something, an article comes on your path, and it's a few things that happen that you might get like triggered by it, and things like, and suddenly there's this person speaking about it and that person speaking about it, right? Like this divine kind of alignment, like, hey, that's interesting, this thing is coming up. But that could also be a pink car. You've been talking about a pink car and
Yeah,
suddenly a
that's
pink
true.
car comes up, right? So that's with anything. Then second, I think it starts always with what no, let me share this. Certain things aren't for everybody, and that's okay. And that's so okay. There are so many paths and so many ways to learn about yourself. Because what's the ultimate? Is the ultimate because, for example, for those of you here who've heard anything about psychedelics, you probably heard the term ego disillusion. Now, to me, it's always a little bit painful hearing that because I'm always debunking this indirectly, because it immediately sets up the brain and the ego like you're going to fight something.
Mm.
You're not going to have control. And I believe in the ultimate way, and to actually show up in our society, where how we need to show up is by our shared humanity and build bridges, not by actually leaving ourselves. So it's becoming a balance between the ego, the mind, and the heart. But
Yes.
the thing is can the heart be the master and can the mind be the student? But if I'm negotiating a contract, or anybody here, you would want your mind and your ego to tell you when someone is trying to take advantage of you. But if you're guiding a beautiful session like the lady who was here before me, she's not there with her ego, she's there with her heart, right? So it's like you need to know who's the captain of the ship at what time, right? So now psychedelics, or any expanded state of consciousness, because you can recreate that in many different ways. For example, drumming or with a rattle creates certain brain waves, right, that expand and gives you access to dormant places within your
Mm.
subconscious.
Hmm.
So if anybody has a contraindication or goes, maybe that's not for me, go drumming, go to a drumming circle, listen to shamanic drumming. You'll get into an altered state. That's
Hmm.
one step that is easy, that is
Nice.
safe.
Hmm.
Second step could be go and do breath work. You have from soft breath work, a conscious connected breathing, but you can also go to holotropic breath work. Holotropic breath work is from Stanley Grof, who worked with LSD and couldn't work with LSD any longer because of the legality of it. And he developed this breath work technique to create an expanded state of consciousness, which is
Hmm.
multiple hours,
Wow.
right? So people have had encounters and realizations and forms of spontaneous innate healing intelligence within a breathwork session as
Yeah.
much as in a psychedelic compound session, right?
Hmm.
So there are multiple things for multiple people. At what stage are you at that you would want to explore that? Now, if you are going, hey, I would love to go a little bit further around the horizon, if we look at the horses with the with the flaps, this is how we walk every day in our society. And psychedelics basically do this. They open up. But what they
Hmm.
also do is they influence the default mode network. Now, what is that? That is in your brain, the neural pathways, which is part of your identity of I am. And what happens under the influence of any psychedelic, either LSD, psilocybin, DMT, what you just said, ayahuasca, if some already maybe know ayahuasca as well, is
Hmm.
that the left part of your brain, the right part of your brain, and the default mode network start to make connections which in a normal waking state it would never make. At least
Mm-hmm.
we haven't figured it out yet in that.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Maybe correct. Maybe we can make it, right? But also, like a little side note, when women give birth, they release DMT. The child is
Hmm.
also in a state of DMT, in a state of psychedelic. I have a really good friend of mine who just wrote an amazing book where she had a full blown awakening while giving birth to her daughter and had a massive psychedelic experience. And from that moment onwards, she started channeling and singing healing songs. She had
Yeah.
never encountered this before. So there are many ways where we sometimes awaken aspects that you would normally address that to a psychedelic compound, right? But there is an
Hmm.
innate ability in our human bodies to wake up these talents and these gifts. So that's, let's say, part one of your question.
Yeah.
And then I will go a little bit into the 5-MeO DMT
Okay.
because that's a valid question because probably not many know about this molecule or substance. So
Mm.
psilocybin is the most well-known, the
Right.
mushroom, right? What's beautiful about psilocybin is that it grows on every continent and almost every country that we know. My very good friend Darren LeBaron, if you're interested in diving deep into mushrooms, he is the mushroom cultivator, also
Mm.
without psychedelics compound. I totally accredit the following quote to him. He
Mm.
actually made t-shirts with it. We're mushrooms having a human experience.
Cute.
Because
That's funny.
as the earth got created, the mycelium connection and the intelligence, that's the base of our intelligence in our human species come from
Wow.
mushrooms.
Hmm.
And
Mhm.
there's a lot of lost knowledge and knowledge from Africa, and he specializes also in that. So that's definitely, I'm just plugging a friend, no credits. I don't, I'm not earning anything on
That's
the
cool.
t-shirts or anything. No, but I think it's really nice because these are people that are actually embedded in this specific sacrament from a
Hmm.
very different perspective than what we normally think.
Yeah.
The same thing goes, if you're curious about this, go into the discovery of Scandinavia and Anamita muscaria, which is the red and white dots you probably see. And that's where the story of Santa Claus comes from, because it was a shaman taking the mushrooms yearly to help and guide the community and the
Wow.
tribes.
That's
Right.
awesome.
So it's not Coca-Cola who brought Santa Claus. No, no, no. It's
Santa.
actually a psychedelic mushroom, right?
Hmm.
Interesting.
So there's
So,
beautiful
but
stories.
doesn't that make it very known that we are only using like 20% of our brain or less, right?
Yes,
If when we're on these drugs, we just feel like we have this expanded awareness. I mean, when I've done cannabis, I feel like I something has shifted. I
for
see
sure.
things differently for sure. I mean, so you've got to think if that's just kind of the little taster of it all, what's really possible with something that could really just open you all up.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Hmm.
And that, and for me, it's always good to speak about psilocybin in that way, is because it is indigenous to everybody.
That's what I
So
was
this is why I
thinking.
want to share that, because we have ayahuasca is indigenous to a very specific region in the Amazon.
Hmm.
Right? And I believe that if you want to ever experience that, experience it with those that are actually trained or have a lineage of a minimum, if it's a Westerner, a minimum of 20 years in that indigenous tribe. At least that would
Mm-hmm.
be my suggestion.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Everybody do
Okay.
what they're doing, right? So coming to 5-MeO-DMT. So 5-MeO-DMT is the shortened for a molecule that is also in plants and in one animal, as of we know. And the animal is called Bufo alvarius. And Bufo alvarius is a toad that lives in the Sonora Desert, which is, of course, New Mexico and Mexico. So, and this toad lives underground for 9 months a year. And it has glands on its body, and in the glands there is a venom. And that venom, when it's smoked, it is called the God molecule. It connects you to divinity. Now,
Mm-hmm.
I want to tell you that divinity isn't only love light. Divinity is everything in the coin, right? So it's because sometimes we think, okay, it's the angelic realm divinity.
Yeah,
No, no, no,
yeah.
that's just one layer of consciousness,
Yes,
right?
yes,
But divinity is everything. So you might
yes.
encounter your own fear and etc. But it's called the God molecule. Now, I find it really funny because that to me is like a silly name, but that's named all over the psychedelic ecosystem because to me everything is a God molecule, but
Yeah.
okay, fine.
I can see that.
Yeah.
Right? So, but that's just a way to for our brains to
That's their
understand it.
marketing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's great marketing. And then it's also in certain plants, right? And then you can have alchemized version. An alchemized version is a synthetic version that you could work with.
Mm.
Now, in from let's say a more academic and scientific way, it actually is now proven repair parts of the brain that were damaged, for specifically, for example, ex-veterans who came with PTSD and shock and brain damage. It's been repairing addiction. So my
Yeah.
personal experience is actually working not only, of course, but when I started working with people that with opioid addiction, alcohol addiction, cigarette addiction, and cannabis addiction.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
And within a very short amount of time, there's an ability to reset neurologically, emotionally, psychologically, and spiritually like that. But
Wow.
That's
And I would
juicy.
get rid of my habit thing from the last call.
it isn't without any risk. So, and this
Yeah.
isn't a sales pitch,
Yeah.
No,
right?
no.
Right.
Yes.
Because there is, of course, a whole format that what I would recommend people to do. And
Sure.
especially if people do have severe addictions, we need to
Mm-hmm.
wean off, and there's protocols for
Mm-hmm.
that. Right.
Absolutely.
But
Wow.
I just want to say that there is a lot of research, and there's also a lot of research right now. I'm personally advising some of the research initiatives with 5-MeO for end of life.
Mm.
For example, I've worked with some private clients who were diagnosed with specific illnesses, not knowing if they would survive, and it would help them to come to terms with, not being on this planet anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Cool. Very
yeah.
cool.
And then in my own retreats over the last many, many years, and I've facilitated many people, the majority of people that come have life questions, feel disconnection. And I think disconnect is our biggest disease in our society that fuels
Mm.
depression, anxiety, feeling alone. What's the word in English? There's a specific word. It's still Dutch
Isolated.
and Port.
Isolation.
Isolation,
Isolated?
yes.
Yes.
Yeah, isolated. But also life questions where people, like I said, rites of passage, people that are, after 20 plus years of marriage are divorcing, and now what?
Mm.
Have adult children, have a successful job, but I don't, what is my meaning? What's my purpose in life? Who am I? Grief, curiosity. There's quite some people who have read so much and are just curious, like, wow, what could this
Mm-hmm.
bring me? So
Yeah.
yes, it helps on a lot of mental health challenges and addiction challenges, but it can also work on real life topics and questions, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's 5-MeO DMT, and I'm going to go to the last thing because if I remember, I clocked three things, and that's the pineal gland.
Yes.
Yeah. Good job.
Oh, very nice.
Oh.
So yeah, so well, I mean, okay, so the pineal gland is, of course, seen as the third eye. I don't think I have to explain that here, or
Oh,
the
wait, I
seat
think
of
we
the
got
soul.
that. Yeah.
Well, right. But it is the production of melatonin. So it's the sleep wake cycle. And, and when it comes to 5-MeO, you go into a non-dual state with it. So, like I said, the ego dissolution, the separation between I and you becomes, the veil becomes very thin, right? So, um, there's some research that suggests that the pineal could produce 5-MeO DMT and DMT itself.
Yes.
Mhm.
And studies have found that DMT in rat brains, for example, have indications it may exist as well in our human brains. So in rat brains, it exists, but the pineal gland is the main source is unproven,
Okay.
really.
Yeah,
Okay.
Joe Dispenza says, you've got to do all these things and then you can produce a little bit of it.
Yeah. So what my belief is, this is my personal, what I've seen is actually the lungs and breathing.
Hmm.
Okay.
Yep.
There
Interesting.
is, so the breath, of course, is extremely important in creating this expanded state and this DMT place. Now, what's
Mm.
really interesting is that certain animals, there are, I know two, but there was a third one. I forgot the third one. There is one which is the horse consciously chooses to go into an altered state by putting its mouth over something and starts breathing rapidly.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah, it's
So it's
the
kind of a
cribbing.
hyperventilation. Now,
Yeah.
of course, you don't want to go into a breathwork session hyperventilating because that, and especially if you're prone to anxiety, you might set off panic attack. So you need to know how to breathe, but that's the same kind of process. And
Interesting.
dolphins apparently do a similar kind of thing where then therefore they release DMT in that sense. So
Wow.
yeah, um, so, and then of course, DMT, like I said, DMT is released through birth and near death experiences, right?
Hmm.
And also meditation, which you're speaking about, Joe Dispenza. So, and the pineal gland may release DMT then. So that's
Yeah.
not necessarily 5-MeO DMT,
Right.
but it's, it comes, which then creates out of body experiences, visions, and really profound shifts of awareness in that
Hmm.
sense.
What are your thoughts about people who sell like tinctures with just a little bit of DMT to microdose? Is that just kind of
Yeah,
not real?
I mean, who am I to say
That's
that?
true.
I don't know.
Okay.
Like, yeah,
I just thought,
I always ask people and all my clients, especially when it comes also to integration and people want to do microdosing. I ask, what is the reason that you want to do it?
Yeah, it's a
What is
great
your
question.
why? Because
Mm-hmm.
a lot of the time, and even with spiritual practices, with tarot practices, it's a crutch. And to
mm,
me,
Mm-hmm.
it's all about don't give your power away. Create these things are tools for you to remember what's inside of you, not for you to have a codependency with.
hmm.
You shouldn't go to the other realm and make a contract with an entity for to get information. You can go to God and get the information.
Yes,
You
I
don't
love
need that
that.
layer,
Yeah.
right? So that's
Yes.
my so and
I
if you're
like that.
curious and you want to go deeper and there's something you want to work on, I believe it's really healthy to go to the dentist minimum of once a year to clean out. Also do something that helps your ego come into a place of humility. So do something
Mm.
that teaches you something new, do something that makes you learn something, be creative, be out of the box, because we get stagnant in our ways, and
I love
especially when
this.
it's about limiting beliefs, right?
Hmm.
So do something big once a year and then integrate that. And if that means that maybe once every while you drink a cacao, you do a cacao ceremony, you do a microdose, maybe you go for a silent walk every Sunday, that's great. But if you're doing it because you're substituting something or you're
Mm-hmm.
bypassing something
Yeah.
or it's helping you numb something, and we're really smart in convincing ourselves that we're doing it
Yes.
for the right reasons,
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know.
right? So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So tell us
What
some of the,
I
go
was going to
ahead.
say, what has been your experience like? If you don't mind sharing a little bit about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My experience with 5-MeO, with
Yeah, yeah,
with,
yeah. Five,
yeah,
eight, five. Yeah.
yeah. Um, so my first experience wasn't because I actually really felt like doing it. I have so so sometimes you get catapulted into serving or providing something not because you wanted it. It just you're just kicked in the butt and go like, you got to do this. Like, no, I don't want to. So
I
I
might know
have
a
to,
thing about that.
right. And I have to be really honest. I had so much judgment on the
Mm,
psychedelic facilitation. And this was about a decade ago, because I actually, interesting enough, I was coaching and supporting people with quite some challenging after LSD or ayahuasca ceremonies.
mm,
They were really dysregulated, disassociated, spiritual emergency. And so I was seeing the downfall of it. I was seeing the challenges of it, not only because of the substance, but most of the time because of the facilitation and the context that
Mm-hmm.
people were missing and the guidance afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
So I had this opinion. And at that time, I was really working with the medicine of the heart, and just go and sit and meditate, and you'll be ready when you'll be ready for this transformation. It will happen naturally, right? So that was really what I was going with. And interesting enough, my ex-partner at the time, he said to me, Natasja, I found this woman. He's from the US, and it's like he was in the US and found this woman. He had done a 5-MeO DMT session with her, and she's like, oh my God, you two are sisters, you should be doing this. I was like, hell no. I looked it up and I was
That's
like,
where
wow,
I
this is really
feel.
extreme. Oh no, I don't
Yeah.
want to do it. That's not for me.
Yeah.
So that was my first no. And then second time around, he said, and then he explained to me, and then I got curious, and he said to me, Natasja, I really think you should do this. This is so your space. And I'm like, that's so interesting. And I felt this judgment come up, these reasons why I shouldn't. And I was like, sorry, but shit.
Yeah,
Shit,
right.
shit, man, this is judgment. If I know anything,
mhm.
I should meet it,
Right.
Wow.
Right.
you
Because it's
know?
coming up for some
And then
reasons.
I met someone from Mexico, and just to give some context, so 5-MeO DMT in the toad medicine was a forgotten medicine. There is no proof that there are indigenous tribes, for example, the Seri tribe, which eventually I came connected through my teacher with, actually have any memory or recollection of working with this sacrament in this way. But I believe it just, there is just no other way. Of course, there was at some point, and sometime
Sure.
it came up. So this gentleman from Mexico, got suggested by two different people, the same person. I called him up, and I kid you not, I picked up the phone to have a conversation. The first thing that comes out of my mouth was, I'm looking for a teacher. I hadn't done the substance. I didn't know anything about it. And that's what came up. And he laughed and he said, I'm looking for an assistant. And I'm like, what did I just say? What did I sign up for? Like, what?
Wow.
So
This
he
is
came to the
amazing.
Netherlands, and I was really lucky because I had a okay running coaching business. I found some coaching clients who were interested. I helped them prepare and I helped them integrate without me knowing preparation and integration, because there was no courses back then. There was
Mm,
barely anything. And then I had my first experience, and my very first intake. Nothing much happened. And then I said, I don't know if anybody here has MDMA experience, but I literally said out loud, oh my God, I don't think this is for me. I like MDMA better. So that was really funny. And I was like, you know what, let's do this weekend. It's fine. I didn't wasn't seeing, okay, what's all of this about? And then the 3 days went by, and then I was the last one to go in a very big field with a lot of, but just really Dutch landscape, which is flat and goats and cows, So, but there were some goats around, and it was a sunset, and I had two friends, a man and a woman, and I said like, oh, could you be on either side when I would go
Mhm.
journey? And my teacher, we had decided this is what we're going to be doing. My teacher at times says like, "Hey, sister, you're ready for the full dose. I'm going to initiate you." And I was like, okay, not knowing
Not
what I
thinking.
said okay to. And
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
where I got blasted into And I just laughed my way through because there was such a homecoming. It's because any time I prayed as a child, any meditation I had done, any moment I had sat in the dark in the shower with a heartbreak and spoke to spirit, every kind of sensation, angelic encounter I've had, I could feel that that was the magnitude of what I've experienced my whole life. And
Mhm.
suddenly it was on steroids. And I was like, oh my God, I'm home kind of feeling. And from that place, my friend on the left and the right, a man and a woman, they both had their hand on my heart. And it was very interesting because I could feel the energy of their heart moving and how it was moving through their arms into me.
Oh, cool.
Wow.
But I could
Yeah.
only feel that warmth. I could only feel that warmth because it was the end of the day and there was a cool breeze. And because my body on the outside was cold, I could feel the contrast. And then the insight came and the message came. If you wouldn't experience cold, you could have never experienced human love. And
Right.
that's when I decided this is what the gift is. So, talking
Hmm.
about non duality being an expanded state of conscious
That
Yeah.
elsewhere,
makes
it's
total
about
sense.
recognizing that duality is the gift of our experience.
That makes
Oh.
total sense.
And
Ay,
while
ay,
I'm
ay.
saying it, my whole body is responding because
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
back there, every time again. And this is a message that I felt with every cell of my body in such a deep way, and that has fueled my work, like for like everything that I do. And not because I
Hmm.
speak about this story every single time, it's because it's fueled with this part of in my consciousness. And this is why I shared in the beginning our shared humanity. This is what we need. Pain is here, and grief is here, and appreciation is here, and gratitude is here, right? As well. And we can both can coexist at the same time. So that coexisting energy and that feeling and that non-duality, or the experience of non-duality in duality,
Yeah.
Yeah.
was my big gift with 5-MeO DMT.
Wow.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I'm so glad I asked the question.
I am too. It brought up, it was funny, on the other day, I was talking about sacred geometry, and he was kind of saying, well, there's, always the
I'm here.
neutral.
I just need to open the door because
Sure,
it's really warm in here.
you go for it. There's always a neutrality point. And, I almost like the word non-duality versus neutrality. They very much are not the same. Uh, it's very much more non-duality than neutrality. What are your thoughts?
Hmm. Let me sit with that for a moment. Mm, yeah, I think okay, yeah, neutrality I think has more a very human flavor to it.
Hmm.
And then
Yeah.
when you're in a place of non-duality, there is all of life in it.
Yeah, it's spacious. It's very
It's
spacious.
spacious. So I'm
Yeah.
just talking about the energetic feeling of it,
Hmm.
right? And neutrality, for me, neutrality is when you've worked on a limiting belief, for example, right? And it's changed neurologically in your system. You've had an aha moment, and neurologically a new pattern is made. And this could be very simple. You have a friend where you're always commiserating with. We all have had these friends,
Yes.
commiseration with a friend, right? And suddenly
Yes.
you've gone to a retreat, or you've done a meditation, or you've done therapy, and suddenly the friend is still in the commiserating with you, but somewhere you're not able to go into it anymore,
No
right?
good.
I'm just making a very simple, and then you feel like, wow, am I now apathy? Is this what is happening? And then we confuse that neutrality. That's to me a state of neutrality. For a moment, there's neutrality because then you're making a new choice, a new behavioral choice, and you're making a new action. So then you have a point of neutrality, emptiness.
Uh-huh.
And that's the most
Hmm.
great point because it's an indicator where you suddenly ego has given you choice back instead of being
Mm.
responding to the situation.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So that to me is energetic psychological neutrality. And then non-duality is where nothing and everything is there. And
Mm-hmm.
that's like a that's like a cup fully filled.
Yes. Yeah.
I always say cup runneth over. One of
Yeah.
the things that if I'm hearing you correctly, is would you say that humanity is really running up against their fight with duality? In other words, we are either through programming or through maybe some spiritual learning, I don't know, where we're always like, oh, we've got to kill off this ego or like edge the ego out. Whereas instead, there should have been more of this integration and, like you said, this balance. Which one takes the dance, which one goes first and leads. But in society, do you think maybe humanity is running up against the duality fight? Like
Yeah.
we're always wanting to struggle against that and not knowing.
Yeah. Absolutely. I believe personally, yes. And what I will add to that is that if we would have in our society embedded, like initially when I shared about rites of passage, right? What is the purpose of a rites of passage? Is to actually to tame the wild wolf inside of us, and a
Mm-hmm.
wild wolf. And I think our society is in very in a wild wolf state, right? Not in its wise wolf state, right? Not as a leader state
Yeah,
who actually
right.
runs behind the pack, not in
Right,
front, right?
right.
The leader of the
Yeah.
pack of wolves is behind, right? So so when you go into a vision quest or a rites of passage, there is a moment, and in some traditions, you, for example, you get buried for an X amount of days. I'm now personally going into, and I call this the medicine. For me, is medicine. Grief can be medicine, as lavender can be medicine. But for me,
Yeah.
I'm working personally with darkness.
Mm.
So going multiple days into darkness and don't do anything,
Wow.
nothing. Nothing, right? So there are states of, for example, you would go into caves, you would go into the wild, in the wilderness, and you'll just have to get through, or um, uh, Neolithic sites where people would be buried for an X amount of time, and there will be, and that's where the ego goes in and surrenders to something bigger,
Mm.
right? And bigger could be the interconnectedness of all of life. We could
Mm-hmm.
say the sacred, we could say nature, we could say God, the goddess, right? Something that is bigger. And from there, it learns something. And what it learns is something for the tribe, not for
Mm.
itself. So it brings back a gift. And then the community comes and picks up the individual, right? And then they celebrate and they integrate. And then that person gets initiated to the next stage within the community or the
Mm.
tribe.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how you tame the wild ego. That's how you tame the wild wolf. And I believe that we have lost, this place. We go to university and literally on when you have a degree, it says a master, but you're just about to start life. How can you be a master? And
Right.
that's already psychologically. I love
I
that people
gotcha.
go to university, and that's, I'm not saying anything wrong, but that's already, we give this pyramid top to bottom value, and especially in leadership, you
Mm.
know, and that structure, instead of grassroots from bottom to top,
Wow.
right?
Huh,
And
that's how we
that's
started this series, was talking about our roots go descending before we ascend. Love
yes,
it.
and that's
Yeah.
it, and that's where, and that's, I believe, and this is why, it doesn't for me, it doesn't matter what you do, how you fill in, but circles around fire, circles around community, circles around relating back to nature, circles around honoring elders. And I'm not just talking about age, I'm
Mm.
talking about certain people that have walked a certain path and have a certain expertise, and let that ask for advice and different viewpoints, and let that sacredness of circle come back.
I love that.
That's the beginning and the ending of life. So I believe because rites of passages will naturally happen in everybody's life. You know, some will lose a child, and you know, some will lose a partner. Those are like dark nights of the soul that happen for people in our lives, right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
But what we need is the constellations that support that, and that begins by what you're doing online. You know, sometimes it's
Mhm.
like a virtual circle around the fire like this. So I
Yeah.
hope this answers your question. This
It
is a very
does.
personal
Wow.
viewpoint, so I don't know
I
if that
love it.
answers.
No, I think it was just beautifully said. It's so beautiful. Uh, I feel like there's so many other questions that I just feel like you can answer. And one of the things that I like, so in any of these journeys, have you channeled? Have you like tell us about some of the mystical sides of it that really change the needle? Because sometimes, people come back from ayahuasca and I'll talk to them and they're like, I was playing with angels and na 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 na. And I'm kind of like, and how is this impacting your life, your direction, your courage, your, encouragement to others? And I don't see it. Sometimes it is just a cool experience for people, but you have integrated it, and I have kind of a sense that every time you take one of these journeys, there's more integration.
Yeah, this is a really good point. You know, if we would book, all of us that are here live right now, and those are watching, if we would book a flight to Crete
Mm.
and sit by the pool, we would have a great time with our pina colada, wouldn't we?
For sure.
Like,
We'd be way out there too.
yeah, I mean, that would be wonderful, you know? So I don't want to dismiss the angelic experience at the
Sure.
pool,
Sure.
right? I mean, everybody, they will receive whatever it is in their life and able to digest what they can digest. I do believe that there is a responsibility in those serving medicine to make it so, and have actual methodologies or frameworks where people get accountability and not psychonautability,
Mm.
right?
Uh-huh.
Because
Uh-huh.
reciprocity starts not only by acknowledging those that have worked with these sacraments before us and maybe having benefit sharing, but reciprocity is also in taking responsibility who and what you're introducing in people's lives.
Yes.
So
Mhm.
one of the things that I say, and this is not a quote from myself, is from a friend, Mudu Bakwi, who is a part of the Psychedelic Society in Detroit. Please find him. He's amazing. He's
Mhm.
really an alchemist. He has an amazing initiative in Detroit with mushrooms. It's great. So, but he said that because he was a guest teacher in one of my trainings, and he said, you have to understand that when you are coming in to a facilitator's a sacred circle, you're coming in on the spiritual merit of the facilitator. So it's
Yeah.
almost like, well, I'm just going to pick a random name that I see here. It would almost be like, hey, psilocybin, meet Joe. Joe, meet psilocybin, you
Mhm.
know? And it's like through this way that Joe will get access through the depth of the relationship that I have created with this sacrament,
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
right? So that is one. And so you have to, facilitators and those that carry have to understand the responsibility of that relationship and that reciprocity, and then the responsibility how to integrate that. But a
Mhm.
lot of people, it's not because they have malintentions, it's not because they don't want to do the right thing, is like I said, the young wolf, and we don't know what we don't know. Now, mind you, 10 years ago, if if I would know what I know today 10 years ago, I don't think I would have started. Because
Mm.
sometimes the more you know, the less I want to do it.
Really?
And sometimes
Okay.
there's a benefit by not knowing so much. So I also want to say that. But when it comes to I call it is it an English word? Paraphernalia? Is that an English word?
Yes, that's a
Yeah,
word.
that's a word, right? So it's like the trinkets of the
Uh-huh.
mystical, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's illusion.
Mm-hmm.
That's the
Okay.
pina colada at the pool.
Yeah.
It
I
can be
gotcha.
fun. I'm not dismissing it,
Right.
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
The unicorns and fun, and right?
But we're,
But
yeah, but
there's
that we would
layers.
be, people, I guess people do it for other reasons too. We would be going and doing it for greater consciousness, greater unity. And I could probably say that for a lot of the people on the line too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's still the thing is what you think you're coming in for might
Yeah.
not be what you're coming in for.
I like
Right?
that.
Well,
I
that's
like
true
that.
too.
9 out of 10 times when you're trying to work on greater consciousness, you'll be catapulted into your childhood and stuff with mom and
I think I
dad.
come out like a little puddle.
I love
Yep.
that so much. I
Yeah.
get it.
I
I totally
wasn't
get it.
seen here.
Yep.
Oh, that's so funny. One
But
of
yeah, so to come back to your specific question and to just close that up is that yes, there are absolutely beautiful experiences to have and insights and encounters you can have. But if you give your power away to them, that's not the purpose. Psychedelics will give you illusion and show you about your illusion. And certain
Hmm.
compounds and certain medicines and certain teachers are specific to specific
mm,
type of work, right? And so it will be directed in different ways, like so if we would work with ayahuasca more on our shadow and intergenerational trauma and epigenetics, etc. And with psilocybin, you could move in many different directions in that way. Psilocybin is really well known to show you your own nonsense, laugh about it, and let's move on, right? In that way. So,
That's my
but it's really
bullshit.
important to have context and have good
Hmm.
integration. Yeah.
yeah, you do talk a lot about the framework, and I have heard you speak here about, kind of why you facilitate in the way that you do. What is one of the biggest misconceptions, or how does, tell me about the framework, I guess, a little bit, just like a little snapshot about how you work with folks.
Yeah. So, well, the practical part it is this. When it comes to having a methodology or framework, is you need to understand and acknowledge that we are holistic beings. Therefore, you have a responsibility to always create something that touches upon the mind, the emotions, the body, and the spirit, right? And the fifth one is what binds it all, right? Which
Hmm.
is whatever your belief system is, but I'm just going to say it's the spirit or ether or God,
Yeah.
right? That
Okay.
binds everything. So in the methodology, you have to understand what's step number one. If this is probably the most simplest thing, and when I say it, you go like, yeah, that makes sense. You cannot learn anything new, nothing new, or be curious or creative when your nervous system is in a fight flight.
Mm,
I think everybody here has heard fight flight in their nervous system.
yeah.
So everything needs to come into balancing the body and the psychology out first before you can step and allow yourself to trust what is about to unfold to go into there. So the framework is really built upon working with psychological safety and physical safety before you do anything. So even before people arrive in an in-person setting, either a 1 day or sometimes it's a private setting, but let's say my standard retreats are 5 days or a 9 day, and that's a leadership practitioner training. Before you arrive, the mind and the body have are fully been prepared. So
Hmm.
by the time you're actually on in our center, you go into expanded state, not immediately with the plant medicine, but you go into breath work and you're already going to the
Hmm.
body.
Okay.
Actually, we're arriving. So the method is, and you always at the end of the day, I always ask myself, have we touched upon this part, this part, this part, this part, this part? Yes, check. You know, next day. So that always needs to be in balance. Then another aspect which overlays it. So this is the holistic aspect. Now, I say this is I can't even say it's not shamanic, it's not esoteric. I think it's the principles of life, to be
Okay.
honest.
Okay.
But this is the other aspect, is where you have to understand the masculine and feminine as an energy. And I'm talking about like the same as water, air, fire, earth, right? Not the gender.
Yes.
So, and these principles are extremely important to understand when you do what and what is actually spiritual safety. So the masculine aspect protects the material realm. The
Mm.
feminine aspect protects the spiritual realm.
Yep.
Right? So,
Yep.
and when we're going into an expanded state of consciousness, we are guiding parts of like the birthing doulas or the death doulas, right? And this
Yep.
could be men or women or any gender,
Yeah.
right? But it is the actual, when you go into an expanded state, it is a feminine birthing experience.
Okay.
Mm.
Okay.
Therefore, that kind, and so you have to understand that the psychology of holistic framework, and then you have to understand of the energetics of the balance between the union and the masculine and the feminine from an energetic perspective, and that overlaps both. And when that is in place, it could look very simple. I'm just going to give a very simple example so it isn't too far out.
Sure,
But
sure.
the start of our day, what feels really good is if we would all arrive in a physical environment. What we do in corporate environments immediately is sit down and we talk about our action points. We're going to do this, this, and this, right?
Yeah.
Nobody actually feels really good when that happens. We feel, whoa. So, but what we do in sacred circles like this? We sit down and maybe we have a moment of silence. We have a
Hmm.
meditation, could be visual, could be sensory. The feminine is the one that collects data in the senses. So,
Hmm.
what we
Hmm.
first want to drop into is the senses, is just being, and then going from being in the senses into a dream state. And then that's the opening session of a day. And
Mm.
then when we come out of that meditation, either 10 minutes or an hour, we might go around with our talking stick and everybody speaks. And
Yeah.
that's then the masculine who comes
Yeah.
into direction, into
Hmm.
arrow, into where are we going? I've
Got
collected all my
it.
Right.
senses, my information is here. Now I can speak up and make something of it and create.
Yeah.
So that's the balance between the feminine and the masculine and why that feels so good.
Hmm.
But normally we live in a society that we do the action, the arrow first,
Yep.
and then we reward ourselves by
Yeah.
sitting.
True. I can see the
Right?
benefit for
Are going to some sugary snacky things so that we can
Exactly.
avoid
Reward
the
system,
annoying.
dopamine.
It's true.
Yeah.
But I
So
can see
So
the
beautiful.
that's
benefit
a
of,
little bit some practical and some
yeah.
framework about, how it's built and why and how you have to understand and what I said or shared already about rites of passage, you have to also understand about the journey of the different archetypes and how they go.
Hmm.
Maybe anybody here is interested in the hero's journey, which all movies are
Yes.
based on from Joseph
Oh,
Right.
Campbell,
yes. Yes.
right? I would
Hmm.
recommend going into the teachings of one of his students, which is the heroine's journey, and
Mm.
that's a longer journey into the underworld. So
Mm.
basically, a
Interesting.
longer journey into the shadow,
Uh-huh.
and that to me is a lot more correct
What do
than
you mean correct?
because the journey is longer into, let's say, fighting our demons, getting
Uh-huh.
a relationship with
Big,
our ego.
yeah.
And it honors the feminine principles in there. And again, not the physical one, but the feminine
Right.
principles of transformation and rites of passage.
Right, because it really addresses every limiting frequency in
Yeah,
that depth where the hero's journey just has like one kind of aha moment.
exactly. And there's
Yeah,
multiple stages to it, right?
that's
Ah,
cool.
Everybody here has had Dark Night of the Soul in his or
yes.
own way of life. And if
Hmm.
you go into the anatomy of what happened, if you would just zoom out of what happened, there are different stages into it. And in the
Ooh,
heroine's
Yep.
journey, it's a lot more the anatomy of that. So yeah.
Uh-huh. Wow.
thank you for
Very
sharing that.
cool. Well, this has been fabulous. any last words that you have for this conversation to kind of wrap it up or
And tell us
kind
what
of pimp
about,
yourself out? Yes.
tell us where our audience can find you, and learn a lot more about your beautiful work, and also any parting words for us today. God, I don't even know how time flew by.
Well, that was fun. That was a
So
good, that was a
quick,
ride.
so quick. And
That's
I
a
had my
really
door
good ride.
closed, so I was sweating like crazy. I was like,
You're like, when is this conversation over? Maybe you are just needing a detox.
I was needing a detox for sure. I'm in the Netherlands and we have like this Indian summer, so it's like suddenly really damp and hot. So, but my last thing I wanted to share is, yes, I really know what I want to share. So, one of the things that we sometimes can get caught up in is doing the work a lot, and doing the work and doing the thing. But please, please, with all the craziness that is in our society and in the world and all the things that could really spiral us in an existential crisis, and so rightfully so, I have to say,
Yeah.
please have increments of joy in your life. Make time for joy. Connect with other people. Dance silly, a garden, have joy. Do something that is joyful at least once a day, because there isn't anything that is more energetically protective than you being in a joy state.
I love that.
Yeah. So joy is the way. So whatever joy is, and I'm not saying eat the crisps and 5 bags and that was joyous. Natasja
Well,
said this is
sometimes
joy.
it is.
No, come on, adult discernment here.
Yeah.
But
dance. Be
Yeah.
silly, right?
Dance silly. Dance.
Yeah.
To me is dance.
Yeah,
Always
me
dance.
too, me
Headphones
too.
on and dance. So
Yeah.
before I came on, I danced. Because then I'm in a different state,
Love that.
So that's what I want to say. And then you can find me where my name, Natasja Pelgrom, it's a Dutch spelling, so .com. awakenthemedicinewithin.com. So awaken the medicine within. That's our retreat platform as well. And then I also have a virtual platform, which is the name of Human Flourishing, but then the Greek version, which is Eudaimonia Institute. And then you can find me on socials. I'm not on Facebook anymore, but Instagram, LinkedIn, just my name. You'll find me there. You can always reach out, send me an email if you have questions. No problem.
Oh,
Thank
love
you
it.
so
Like
much. Yeah, it was fabulous.
Well, it's been a pleasure and an honor. Thank you so, so much for your time today. Some of the comments from the chat. Thank you, Natasja. Great conversation.
Oh, I haven't been reading them. I have dyslexia, so talking and
I do
reading
too.
for me is also always a little bit intense. Yes, low dose. So great.
Some questions that we gotten earlier. And then on the YouTube chat is, wow, I love the integrity, love the framework conversation. Oh my gosh, the conversation with Natasja, she's so good.
So great.
Thank you.
Thank you, ladies. Thank you all. Beautiful conversation. And then some beautiful hearts.
Thank you
Thank
so
you so
much for your
much.
time here today. And if there are any specific questions, feel free to email.
Thank you.
Good luck with everything.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. All right. We've got 10 minutes before we start with Phyllis Douglas,
Y'all are gonna
who
love her.
blew us away a few weeks ago on our regular talk show. And we were just like stunned and woken.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Such an energetic day today. Please take care of yourself. I know that sometimes when you're around a lot of different energies and a lot of different frequencies like that, you can get a little bit like, where am I?
Dehydrated, yeah.
What am I doing? We're getting dehydrated because we keep talking and we don't drink any water all day, but you don't have to.
You can definitely just walk over and get yourself some water, take a quick break if you need to,
Yep.
just sit and take a couple deep cleansing breaths.
Yep.
We want to remind you that everything you can find, all of the replays and all of the information, if you're not there already, on our live page. It also includes some really good offerings that we have. We talked about this yesterday for the we have the 8 hours of heart frequencies. I can't
If
get
you
the
could
words
talk
out
again,
anymore.
we'll just try
I
to
know.
send it to in a frequency bundle.
8 hours of Hertz frequencies, which we're calling the Summit Enhancer. And so it's just a really cool way for you to play that in the background. It helps to just kind of lower your vigilant system. It helps to just relax you a little bit so that you can receive the information. I know sometimes, like my frontal lobe, I always call it my bouncers, right? Like the guy's like, you ain't getting in here. And that's the information that I would love to receive. But sometimes I'm just too worked up to even be able to receive what the speakers are so beautifully laying out for me. So this Summit Enhancer it allows you to just kind of relax into some of the information and open up those channels. And it's really created from a sound engineer. Jenith worked with the sound engineer through her hypnosis. And so it is one of those beautiful things that we're just offering for $8. Of course, we have to reimburse ourselves for getting the sound engineer to work on it, but it is our gift to you at being such a lower priced. And then we also have the chakra frequencies. It's called the chakra harmonics. And so what it does is it's also another listening. It's 7 hours and one dedicated to each chakra where it clears out the, maybe stuck energies, it clogged, constipated.
The bullshit.
Yeah, it clears out that bullshit.
I'm going to go through every one of those chakra frequencies tonight now.
And you can listen to it while you sleep and whatnot and have that bullshit just leave you. But you can wake up and feel a lot more revitalized and receive in a place of receiving. I know so many times I sat there and was like, oh, Lianka, your solar plexus and your chakra, your root chakra is so clogged. And I'm like, yeah, cool. I want to clear it. How do I do that? And so this is just a really easy way, passive way for it to integrate with you, and you can just leave it on. You can also kind of I always say this, I always play this in the background for my family. They don't even know it's like what's happening to them, but I'm clearing their chakras too, and the chakras of my home. So it's just really cool way for you to be able to just know that you're receiving and clearing out some of those stuck energies, especially when it comes to maybe, entities that might be trying to latch onto our openness, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's just one of those magical things that we also put together, and that's just $27. You can find all of those little different offerings for this summit there on our live page. And then also, if you want to get all of the whole series, that is also available. So all the replays, everything you have here, plus our other summit replays, all in a bundle, you could find that there too on the live page. So just click around and see what maybe calls to you that you might want to, put in your pocket for later.
And would you guys like to play deeper with us? Tomorrow, we are going to have a conversation about our inner circle and how you can do a live group hypnosis with me almost every Friday. So mark your calendar for a second conversation tomorrow, and we're going to go ahead and go on through what our new inner circle is about.
Yeah, I'm super excited.
Mm-hmm. We also have a live event planned in November. It's November 7th through 9th. So if you really want to work on embodying some of these frequencies, I put up some of my old event videos where you can actually see me working on bodies. So that would be at hustle.com/event if you are looking to explore and go deeper with us, and a lot of the people from the inner circle will be there too.
Yay. It'll be very, what I'd say, retreat style. And, we'll just taking people through really embodying and connection too. I mean, some of the connections I know last time when I worked in your business, when we did the live event and I was supporting you in that, the changes that we had on site with the women, I mean, some women came home, like one lady, and I know this is going to sound weird, but she's like, I got it. I'm going to have a divorce. And you think, oh,
I know.
Right? That's
was a crazy one,
she's like,
wasn't it?
oh, she's like, this is exactly what I've been.
This is my path.
This is my path. This is my purpose. And we're like, okay. No, but she was right. She had been wanting to do this, and she finally had the courage to really step into her own sovereignty. For me, I mean, look at me now, right? So I'm sitting here talking about some of the things that I've always wanted to share.
And have been resisted. I'm going to use the restroom real quick. You keep doing what you do.
All right, everyone, make sure that you also have your journals out. One of the things that is really kind of I don't know, I always dialectic, I don't even want to say those words, but anyway, one of my biggest takeaways from my spiritual journey was the ability to reflect back on where I've been. Many times when I'm having like my own dark night of the soul, and I've really trying to figure out, like, Leonka, gosh, you've been doing this for so long. What are you really accomplishing? You should know better. Those kind of days, I will find myself looking back on my journal, and even if it's just a couple words, and I look and I'm like, from a couple of years ago, and I'm like, dang, I have really come so far. And I remember being in some of those darker places, and writing about it, and then thinking, my gosh, I'm like, oh, but leave, like I read my little pages. But the journal is not necessary for you to just like, oh, congratulate yourself. It's really so that you have these benchmarks of what your journey has been. Many a times when it's kind of like what one of the speakers said yesterday, if you have that rock in your shoe, it's going to bother you, it's going to bother you, and it's going to let you know. And then the minute that you got the rock out of your shoe, right? Because our spiritual journey is very much the same way, you don't think about it anymore. And yet now you've healed your foot from aching because you've removed the rock out of your shoe. Our spiritual journey can sometimes be that same way too. We may have something that's been ailing us, and once we've cleared through that, it's like, bruh, I forgot. So our journal also can serve as guideposts for where we've been and also for where we're going. Many times I will also look back, and I also made a pact to write down all of like my dreams, right? So that's a pretty big pact because it means I have to wake up, grab a pen, and actually write out a couple things. Or now I'm just kind of doing voice diction while I'm half asleep in hopes that I don't have to go to the bathroom as well. So I don't wake myself fully up. But I say all this because my spirit guides know that they can really reach me in times of dream state. So that's why I write down and make an actual journal of my dreams. And so what I've learned is that when I'm going back through some of those journal entries, I can recognize patterns that are very prophetic, that tell me about different stages, either in humanity or about myself, and really about where I am supposed to be. In fact, my spiritual awakening around Akashic readings was just, having a dream where I saw a record, like a record player record. And I did not know that that was for me to go and teach other people about Akashic records if I had never written that down in my journal. So just know that your spirit guides are communicating with you at all points of this journey, and especially during the summit, because they know that you're being open and available. So they're going to give you images and answers to the questions that you've been asking. So just be ready with like a pen, paper, and kind of carry it around with you, especially to like, bathroom, weird places. But I know it sounds silly, but honest to God, it's one of those things that you will reflect back on, and you'll thank me for it. I'm just going to say that.
No, I think that's a great reminder. Thank you for saying it. All right, I'm going to go ahead and bring up Phyllis here, maybe, and find my little bouncer. No, not that one. Here she is.
Hey.
I want to see your tattoo now.
Oh, there we go.
There you
Well, you should hear me. Okay.
go. What is your tattoo?
Which one?
Well, the one that I can sort of see some of it.
This.
Oh, nice. Wow.
I got that when my father passed because I'm part Cherokee.
Mhm.
Oh, cool.
And we
Neat.
loved bears. There's a whole history of bears. And then I just got a sacred tattoo in a
Wow.
ceremony.
Oh, cool.
So, much to my husband's chagrin, another tattoo. He's not into tattoo. He's into me, but he's not
My
into
husband's
tattoos.
like just opposite. He's like, oh, okay, oh, cool. All right, let me stop the previous recording and start again.